I used to think that healing was about fixing what happened to me, but now I realize that healing is about making sure that it does not continue through me. Today's episode is going to be talking about breaking generational curses. I think there's a lot of controversy around what it means to break generational curses or what even is a generational curse to begin with, right? Um, I think people think like, oh, like that's just stuff that's out of the movies, or, there's really not generational curses. Like, that's not a real thing, but it most definitely is, right? If you can notice a pattern in your family lineage, that's a curse, right? If everyone in your family is addicted to drugs, that's a generational curse because their dad was addicted to drugs and that's all they saw growing up. And so they ended up becoming a drug addict or dabbling in a bunch of drugs because that's what they were used to. And then it continues, right? It just continues and continues and continues. Same with alcoholism, same with diabetes, same with marriages that aren't really marriages, right? They're getting married for codependency, to get a check, to get materialistic gain, just to say they're married, right? To cover up crimes or to cover up that they really like men, to cover up that they really like girls, whatever it may be, right? To cover up infidelity. And the list goes on and on and on. There's tons of different examples. But why it's so hard is because when you realize that this is all you've ever known, you really don't know anything else, right? You don't know anything else. You may know that this isn't right. You may know that this isn't okay, or it doesn't feel right, like, and you know that it's toxic. You know that it's not healthy. But it takes a lot of courage, strength, and bravery, and determination, and faith to be able to say it stops with me, right? And I was that person in my family lineage. I was the person who stood back and watched everything play out from everyone in my family. And I said, you know what? We're not going to do this. I'm not going to allow this because this is not okay. And not only is it not okay, I shouldn't have went through it. My elders shouldn't have went through it, but they still let me go through it and also made it worse for me because they felt like I deserved it because that's what they got. That's the treatment they got, right? And so you have to be really willing to understand that nothing in this life is a coincidence. And when people decide to not break generational curses, you're making the next generation in your lineage suffer. Because when you decide that you're not going to heal, when you decide that you think you're better off just living this life and that this is just what life is, you cut yourself short. You sell yourself short of a beautiful life that you could be living, right? You may think that smoking and drinking and popping pills and gambling all the time and in and out of prison and being a pedophile, you may think that all those things are normal and oh, everybody goes through that and everybody, that's just life. But if you keep that mentality, no one's ever going to change. And you have to be the brave one to say, you know what? Yes, this was normal in my family, but I'm not going to continue the pattern. I'm not going to continue to let my children see this because I didn't deserve it, but my kids most definitely do not deserve it, right? You have to be strong enough to understand that you are not only changing things for your own life, but you're changing everything for generations to come. Like for years, centuries, decades, right? And so you have to really understand that. It's a big decision to make and it's a good one, but it is very hard, right? Um, you have to choose communication over retaliation, right? That was a big one for me because my family just likes to explode. They like to yell and rip and run and say they're gonna fight and oh, we can square up, we can meet up, we can do this and that and a third. And it's like, really? That's what we're doing, right? We could just have a civil conversation. But we're getting up, we're storming off in the middle of someone talking, we're blocking them and hanging up on them on the phone and blocking them before they can even send a text. Hang up on them while they're in the middle of their sentence. Like disrespectful, just disrespectful things, right? And it's easy to pop off. It's easy to say, fuck you, and I don't give a damn, and da 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 da. It's easy to do all that. But it's hard to really sit down and express yourself and say, you know what? I don't like the way you treated me. I don't like the way that you're talking to me. And we may not be able to get on the same accord, but we should both be able to express our feelings. We should both be able to say where we were hurt and accept our faults, take accountability for the part we played, and then we can go our separate ways. If we still choose to not have a relationship after that talk, by all means, right? We just know that we're not meant to be in a relationship, in a friendship, in a partnership, relationship as far as family goes. You have to know and understand that it's easy to do the violent stuff. It's easy to do the negative stuff. It's easy to do the toxic stuff because that's what we were born into. But it takes a lot of maturity. It takes a lot of strength to wake up and say, I'm going to express myself in a respectful manner. I'm going to be honest though, right? We're not going to be sugarcoating things and trying to not hurt the other person's feelings because at the end of the day, our feelings matter just as much as theirs do, right? And you have to understand that communication can be hard. Hard conversations are hard to have. But if they love you and they respect you, then they're not going to take offense to all the things you're saying because they love you and they're going to feel bad that they hurt you, right? Um Choosing boundaries over people pleasing. That was a really hard one for me because I was people pleasing my whole life. I just wanted people to love me. I just wanted people to take care of me. I just wanted people to just give me what I needed: love, support, guidance, respect, the basics, right? But that just was not a thing in our family. That was not something that we really talked about. That's not really something that was given. It had to be earned. But then even when you did stuff to earn it, they still wouldn't give it to you. It was like a cat and a mouse game. You know how when they put the donut, your physical trainer will put that donut in front of you while you're on the treadmill to make you run faster so you can get it. That's what they were doing. Because you're never gonna get it while you're running this mile, right? But they're gonna make you feel like you can. They're gonna make you feel like that's what you're. But they just want you to prove yourself. They just want you to continue to bend over backwards. They want to see you keep people pleasing and keep kissing their ass because it makes their ego and pride feel good. And that was hard for me because setting boundaries felt like a punishment to them. Because whenever I set boundaries, I would always get guilt tripped. Oh, well, it's not that serious. Why are you changing up? You're switching up. You're different. You're being different. You're this and that. And it's like, but I'm not though. I just respect myself a little more, right? I don't want to, I shouldn't have to even make this decision. I shouldn't even have to do all this extra things to get you to see that you're not going to be able to treat me that way. You're not going to be able to talk to me that way. You're not going to be able to sit around and talk behind my back but then smile in my face. You're not going to be able to do all these weird toxic things to me and think that I'm just going to keep taking it. That's what I did as a child, but now I'm an adult with children. And that's not what I'm going to teach my children. Okay? You have to be able to choose peace over chaos. You have to be able, because a lot of, when you grow up in a toxic, dysfunctional family, chaos is like, it's normal. You know what I'm saying? Your family's breaking up your parents, your aunties, uncles, your grandma, grandpas, they breaking up, fighting, cussing, stabbing each other, fist fighting, they getting drunk, they're always pissy drunk somewhere at the gambling, doing all this weird shit. And then by tomorrow they're all back to normal. So you grow up realizing that, oh, okay, like that's just what they do. Right? We fuss, we fight, we put our hands on each other, we drink, we do drugs, and the next morning we'll just pretend like it didn't happen. We'll just pretend that it wasn't that serious, right? It wasn't that deep, right? Because we're still married, all right? We're still this is that, right? This is all it will ever be. It's a bunch of toxic chaos mess. And when you choose peace, your nervous system is like waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're like, when's the gonna be the next? Where are we at with that? Like, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm waiting for someone to do some toxic shit. I'm waiting for my nervous system to be out of whack in fight or flight in survival. And it took me a long time, and I'm still get coming out of that because for 28 years I have been subjected to straight up pure chaos. So when you're around individuals who don't give a fuck about how their actions can affect you, their words can affect you, the things they do and say to your face behind your back, when they don't realize how much it really affects you. And sometimes they do though, right? Because my parents always used to say, um, to me personally, they would say, you don't realize that every decision that you make directly affects everyone around you, right? And they would always say that to me But yet they didn't take that into account themselves, right? They weren't saying that to themselves. And so it was just really hypocritical and funny looking back on it, because it's like, so you can say that to me, but you don't give a fuck about how your decisions and actions affect me directly. So I have to be mindful, but you can't be mindful. That's weird. And that leads me to choosing accountability over blame, because people were so quick in my family to blame, 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 blame. It was always someone else's fault. It was always someone else's problem. It was always this, it was always that. Never, ever did anyone take accountability for the part that they played and someone else's suffering and the decisions they made that directly affected someone else around them. They would just say, "Oh, well, I didn't ask you to do that. I didn't know that you were there." It was always an excuse of some sort, right? It was always blaming, excuses, deflecting. It was always deflecting. It was always something that you couldn't even really, there was nothing that you could really do, right? It was always blame. Let's play the blame game, right? Everyone wanted to blame, everyone wanted to be the right one. No one wanted to be wrong, and it was always a back and forth. It was always you're right, I'm wrong. Or I mean, I'm you're wrong, I'm right, right? And so it got really annoying because it was just like, okay, are we gonna actually having a real adult conversation, or are we just gonna keep playing games? Like, because this is childish as hell. Like, y'all are in your 40s and 50s years old, and you can't even say you're sorry. You can't even have a real. Some of the hardest truths that I had to really start understanding is that I caught myself reacting from old wounds instead of responding from healing, right? When you grow up in a house full of dysfunction and chaos, all you really know is chaos. So, yes, you can be healing, and yes, you can still know the things that you need to do to be better. But when you're still working on yourself, it takes time to adjust and change that, right? It takes a minute, right? It doesn't just happen overnight. And so when you are constantly trying to literally operate from a different like headspace, right? Like you're trying to say, okay, I'm not going to yell, I'm not going to scream, I'm not going to cuss. I'm going to go in level-headed. I might even have some notes with me so I can stay on track, because other people can come into that conversation with you, but they may not be thinking that. They may not give a damn about talking respectfully. They might not give a damn about trying to change the narrative and trying to actually be mature about the situation, right? And so you really have to be aware of who you're talking to and if they're actually willing to meet you where you're at in some way, shape, or form, right? Because I set the tone before we have our conversations with anybody. If it's a serious talk, I'm like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, but I would love to have a mature conversation, a respectful conversation. And my family would always try to say that when I spoke my truth, it was me being disrespectful. But what they really meant was, I'm not used to having someone call me out on my bullshit. And so I'm going to deflect and say that you're being disrespectful because I don't really like that you're calling me out. Because they don't have a response when people are actually calling them out for their terrible behavior. So instead of just saying, you know what, you're right, I'm sorry, right? And actually meaning it, they just completely do the opposite and they just flip it back on you, right? I'm sure someone in in this chat has experienced that before, right? And it's frustrating because you're just like, really? Like, that's what we're gonna do? You know what I mean? It's just like, come on. And it's really it's crazy to experience, because when I would get into arguments with my ex-husband, he would do things to intentionally provoke me. He knew what would piss me off. He knew what would get under my skin. He knew how to get me enraged, right? And so even when I'm trying to be calm, even when I'm trying to have a calm tone, even when I'm not trying to cuss, even when I'm trying to have a real heart to heart, he would still find ways to try to say a slick comment, try to do things that would really hurt my feelings in actions, through his words, not paying attention to me when I'm talking. He'll be sitting there scrolling on his phone as I'm talking to him, like just straight up disrespectful, like straight up disrespectful shit. And it got to a point where I was like, okay, you don't want to hear what I have to say? Fine, I'll stop talking. But then when I stopped talking, then he's like, why aren't you talking? Why aren't you? What's wrong with you? Or if you're not talking to me, you're talking to someone else. You're damn right. I'm not talking to another man, but I am talking to other people. Because if you're not going to listen, then I need to express it through other people, through my therapist, through my friends. You know what I mean? It's got to be somebody. Because I've already tried with you for the last 5, almost 6 years, and you think that I'm going to continue to talk to the wall? You think I'm going to continue to let you, in my face, and then continue to continually do the same shit that I'm telling you and asking you to stop doing? Come on. You know what I mean? It's like you got to be real, right? Like people don't know how to be real. People just know how to play the game and be fake and do all the fucked up shit, but they don't really want to actually change. They don't really want to actually take accountability. They don't want to actually do right by you. They just want to see how much longer they can manipulate you, how much longer can they trick you into believing that they're changing, do the whole like, oh, I'll change for a couple days, and then they go back to the same shit. Because we obviously know that change does not happen overnight, but I have to see the progress. I have to see that you're actually trying to take initiative to do better and want better for yourself and for us and for the family and for just really everything in life, right? Like it's not just about me, it's about how you interact with other people. Because if you interact with this like with me and I'm your wife, I can't imagine how you talk to people that are your friends and your coworkers and your family, because I'm supposed to be like your number one. I'm your wife. So we created a whole family together, but yet you can't even respect what I'm telling you. That doesn't even make sense. You know what I'm saying? But what really changed everything for me was becoming a mother, right? When I stepped into motherhood, everything changed. It changed everything about me. When I say the light bulb went off, it was like, because I was slowly getting there myself, but that like catapulted me. That like was a straight on like smack in the face. Like God was like, no, we gonna need you to speed this up. Okay, because you cannot bring these children, these pure, innocent, angel like children, into this world that is already corrupt and evil. You are not gonna breed them and give birth to them. I don't know why I was having a stroke there. You cannot like have birth and then let them grow up in this lineage. You can't. Because you know how fucked up you were, Lexi. So you definitely can't do that to your children. You know how regretful you'll feel? You know how terrible you'll feel when you get older and realize that they're a spitting image of you and everyone else in your family? That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen, right? When I look at my children, I see the world in their eyes. When I look at them, I see everything. It's so pure. It's so kind. It's so loving. And it's like, I don't know how anyone could look at their children and not want better for them. My mom and dad always used to say, oh, I want to give you the life I never had. But they didn't really mean that. They would just talk out their ass because they didn't really care about what happened to me. They didn't care about what I went through. They didn't care about the hardships that I went through. They always downplayed my struggles. They always downplayed the things I was going through. Oh, but that's not that bad. That's nothing on what I used to do. That's nothing compared to what I went through. That's nothing. It's like, bro, what are we comparing and competing in our trauma for? And you're my fucking father. You're my mother. What are we doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, what are we actually doing though? Why is it that you can sit here and try to compare your life to a 13-year-old child? You're in your 40s. We grew up in different generations. It's different times. So you could be sympathetic about my situation and you can just want to see me grow and love on me and say, it's okay. I've been through some things too. So I completely understand it. But no, you had to trump me. You had to say, oh no, mine was so worse. So you be all right. That was their saying, especially my dad. You be all right. I always ask myself, what kind of home would I want them to remember? Do I want them to have chaos, trauma, turmoil, yelling, screaming, breaking plates, beating up each other, being drunk all the time, dad's never home, always out cheating, you know, I had to take care of everything and they just watch me hustle and bustle? Do I really want them to see that life? Because then Cairo will treat his women that way and Zuri will think that life is all about being a housewife. Life is all about being a servant to your husband, but not a good servant, right? Because you're turning a blind eye to all the fuck shit that he should not be doing. You're cooking, you're keeping up with the kids, all the things with the kids, medical appointments, doctor's appointments, procedures, surgeries, making sure their clothes are fitting them, their shoes, their all the stuff, all the things. And then you're also trying to heal yourself, but then you're also trying to take care of the household, make sure it's clean, do the dinner, do the laundry, deep clean the home, buy things for the home to make it look nice and homey. And then you're also trying to take care of your husband who don't give a damn about you at all in the slightest. But wants you to bend over backwards for him while he's out here letting some other girl give him head, while he's out here having sex with other women, when he knows he has a wife and two kids at home? Huh? You feel me? What are we doing? What are we doing? So that just wasn't going to happen for me. I just knew that that wasn't going to be the situation for me. My ex-husband played me at my most vulnerable moments because I needed him in those moments. I needed him to show up for me, especially being postpartum. I was breastfeeding. I had C-sections. So I was going through a lot. A lot. Whole time, he didn't give a damn. He's like, you good, you got it. You're fine. Like, bro, what? My son has a whole medical condition. No, we're not fine, actually. He was on his deathbed at a month old. No, he's not fucking fine. We're not fine. Me and my son are not fine. You may be fine, but I'm not fine. You understand? Like, it was a lot. And then the responsibility of realizing that I had to model healthy conflict, love, and self-respect, patience, admiration, all the things, right? I had to be able to, and I'm still learning that, right? Because that, again, like I told you earlier, it takes time to undo all the things that I've almost had 30 years of going through traumatic things and watching people respond in a specific way. So now I have to learn how to undo all that, heal myself, then undo all that in the process, and then figure out how to model it the right way, because not only am I re-raising myself, but I'm raising my children. So that's a lot for a person to take on, because it's not easy and it's not going to happen overnight. So you have to learn how to give yourself grace. And that's something I'm also still working on, because I just feel like I can never do enough. And that is also rooted in my trauma, because my mom and dad always made me feel like everything I did wasn't good enough. You know, you need to do more. You need to do more. You need to do more. It was never, I'm so proud of you. It was never, you're doing amazing. It was never, I'm so proud of you for all the things you've done and all the things you continue to do. You're such a warrior. You know, I see your struggles and I'm just so proud of you for getting through those struggles and not giving up and not letting life, chew you up and spit you out. Right? No, they weren't going to say that to me. They weren't. It was never going to happen. Right? And I knew that I had to really make the change, because I want them to grow up believing that they never have to earn love, shrink themselves, or mistake chaos for connection, because all those things were very true for me. And so I really wanted them to have a different outlook on life. I really wanted them to be able to see life differently the first time around. Right? I didn't want them to have to recover. And I'm not going to say that I'm a perfect parent. They're probably going to have to do some healing from me too. But I'm going to try my best to make sure that they don't have to do as much as what I did. Because I'm actively thinking every day about how I can be the best mom. How can I give them autonomy? How can I let them express themselves without, just saying, oh, because I told you so, or oh, because that's just the way life is. Like, how can I stop repeating and doing the same things that my parents did, and really give them space to grow and learn and be their own person, even at this young of an age, right? Like, you have to be able to let your kids learn and grow and test the boundaries and do all the things, especially when they're strong-willed, because they want to learn. They're curious about life. They're inquisitive. They want to know why things are the way they are. They want to know how things work and all the things. But if you're crushing their spirit, how do you think that they're going to grow up in life? They're going to realize that I can't have boundaries. I can't be able to express myself, because every time I do, I always get shit on. I get told I'm doing too much. I get told that that doesn't matter. So the child that you raise when they're little is the direct adult that you're going to have as an adult. Your children will grow up as adults in the world that are pushovers, that are people pleasers, that have very bad attachment issues, that treat people bad, that let people treat them bad. And it's like, that's not the kind of kids I want to raise. Like, that's just not, right? It's just not. So some things that I'm learning is that obviously healing is not linear. I thought before, I was like, oh, we're just going to be on the straight and narrow, right? Like, everything's fine. I'm reading, I'm journaling, I'm doing Bible study, I'm in therapy, I'm making sure I eat better, I'm making sure I'm working out, I'm making sure I stop drinking, I stop smoking, I stop doing all the things that were distracting me. But you can be having a really good week, and then one day out of nowhere, it just hits you. Like, damn, my parents really didn't fucking love me. Damn. My life has been shit. I made the best of it, but like, I went through unnecessary things. I didn't have to go through that shit. I didn't have to fucking go through that, but I got put through it, and I still made it out on the other side, right? And so there's times where you just get really sad, angry, depressed, anxiety, paranoia about the things that you've been through because you're like, what the fuck? Why the fuck would anyone who actually loves you do this to you? Why would anyone who really cares for you put you through these trials and tribulations on purpose? Because none of the thing that I went through was on accident. I can tell you that right now. I know that. God has revealed that to me. Nothing that I went through was by accident at all. It was pre-planned, it was premeditated, and it was all to make me weak. It was all to continue to keep me to continue on the generational cycles because they wanted me to fall in line with their antics and bullshit and join the circus. Wasn't gonna happen. Wasn't gonna fucking happen. Boundaries are an act of love, and realizing that you can have boundaries and still love somebody. Just because I tell you that I don't want to give you a hug doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means I don't feel like giving you a hug. I don't have to give you a 5-page essay on why I don't want to hug you. You know what I'm saying? You know how those weird parents and family members be like, oh, that's your aunt though. That's your grandma. That's your cousin. I don't give a damn. I don't want to hug them. And I shouldn't be forced to hug them. And you telling me that I have to hug them is making me feel really uncomfortable. Like, that's weird. Forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. And I had to really come to terms with that really quick because you can forgive somebody without letting them back in your life. You can say, you know what, I forgive you, I wish you well. No, it's not going to happen that fast. But you can start to that path to forgiveness from the people who have wronged you, intentionally or unintentionally. But that does not mean that because you say that, okay, I accept the fact that you're just not a good person and I just have to let you go. That doesn't mean that we're going to continue the relationship. Because if you wronged me over and over and over and over and over again, chances are you have a really strong track record of fucking me over. So you're probably going to fuck me over again. You know what I mean? You're probably going to do it again. And so it's like, I'm not going to allow that. And then also, I'm allowed to say, you know what? I don't want to be in a relationship with you. You've showed me time and 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 time again that this is not going to work. You don't respect me. You don't give a fuck about my boundaries. You don't care how you make me feel. You don't care about anything about what I have going on, what I'm saying, nothing. You're self-centered, you're selfish, you're mean, you're vindictive, you're toxic, you're narcissistic. The list goes on. But yet you want me to keep kissing your ass. No, not going to happen. Peace can feel unfamiliar after years of chaos. That goes back to what I was saying earlier. When your nervous system is always in a fight or flight mode, you almost get a thrill off of being in chaos. You almost get so used to doing this back and forth, the spouts and all the craziness. And it's like, no. You gotta choose peace, baby. Peace can be boring. Peace can be lonely. But it's right where you need to be. Especially if you're trying to heal, especially if you're trying to break generational curses, especially if you're trying to change your lineage and all the generations that are going to come after you. You cannot be fucking around with people who enjoy chaos, that like to see you squabble, that like to see you angry, that want to see you shake, that want to see you pissed off and angry and screaming and got your veins popping out your neck. Those are not the people you need to be around. They get a kick out of seeing you angry. They get a kick out of seeing you like irate. That's not healthy. They want to push your buttons. They want to see how far they can take it with you. They want to continue to do this weird shit. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing? What are we actually doing right now? Like, you feel me? Like, no, we need to choose peace, right? Peace can be lonely. It can feel a lot. And then you want to run back to the same people who hurt you because you're like, oh, well, it's boring over here. I don't want to do that. But you have to be strong enough to realize that peace is where you need to be. It is very lonely sometimes, but it's where you need to be. And being alone is not always a bad thing. That's where you get time to self-reflect. That's where you get time to talk to God. It's where you get time to really develop who you are as a person and really figure out who you are. You may think you know who you are because of all the things you've been through and, oh, this is just who I am. But if you're open enough to realize that you need to really sit with yourself, you need to really deep dive, do some shadow work, do some inner healing work, cleanse your energy. Do things that you used to like to do as a kid. Bring some nostalgic memories back to yourself. Do things that really make you happy. And really find yourself again. Because we're always evolving. We're always changing. You may like this today, but you may not like it 2 days from now. You may love that piece of pie, but that piece of pie ain't hitting by Thursday. You feel me? You may love that outfit. You may love that clothing brand, but by next month you heard some shit about them and now you don't like them. There's always something that can change in your life at the drop of a hat. And so you have to be willing to understand that spending a time alone can feel like punishment if you're not ready. But you have to kind of ease your way in, and sometimes you get forced in, right? I got forced in because God was like, nah, baby, you're going into a season of isolation now. You need to find your peace. You need to find yourself. You need to get your head together, get your mind, body, and soul together so you can act accordingly, so we can really get this show on the road. Because I have big plans for you. I have things that I have in store for you, but I cannot do it if you are not in the right headspace, if your vessel is weak. Your spirit is strong, baby, but your vessel is weak, right? And you can honor your story without letting it define your future. I had to realize that I'm allowed to tell my story. I'm allowed to share my story. I'm allowed to really lock in and tell people my testimony without letting it define who I am. I don't have to continue to let, you don't have to let your hard moments define you. You do not have to let the hard decisions and the things that people put you through make this be your whole identity. You do not have to continue to be this person that, oh, this is just my life, and you don't need to wear your pain as your outfit. You don't have to do that. A lot of people do that because they make it their identity because they're so stuck, they're traumatized. They can't get out of that headspace. They've traumatized themselves, and people traumatize them, and they cannot get out of that headspace because it's like so unbelievable. I can't believe this person did this to me. I can't believe this happened to me. How am I going to fix this? How can I get better? But then there's so many overload, there's so much going on, they just shut down and that's just it. And then they're on autopilot. And it's like, but that doesn't have to be your life. That doesn't have to be your story. That doesn't have to be the end of your testimony. Yes, these people hurt you. Yes, they did you wrong. Yes, they betrayed you in the worst ways. But that does not mean that you have to let that be your story, because you're letting them win every single time you choose to stay silent. Every single time you choose to not share your story, every time you choose to not choose yourself, you're allowing them to win in some way, shape, or form. And it's not about, but it's really just about making sure that, and always choose yourself. Always know that things are going to be exactly how they're supposed to be. As long as you choose yourself, as long as you continue to make the hard decisions to be the best version of yourself, no matter what people say, no matter what people do, no matter anything, right? Like, don't care. Don't listen to what people say. They're gonna say you're bougie. They're gonna say you're acting different. They're gonna say all these things. But who cares? Fuck them, right? Who cares? So breaking the cycle doesn't mean it's going to happen in one big moment, right? It happens in hundreds of small decisions. It starts by eating better. It starts by changing your routine. It starts by getting better sleep. It starts by working on your reaction to how people, how you respond to people, working on your reaction when people disrespect you, the way we speak, the way we love, the way we heal, right? The way we choose to show up tomorrow. All those things matter. And that's the most important thing that we can really start working on, is self-reflection, going within, because everything that we need is from within. So, what's one cycle that you're committing to breaking? Drop a comment and let me know. See you next week.